Good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased that everybody could join us for this. Obviously, this repositioning effort, those of you that have heard some of the discussion, both at our level, at the component level, the state component level here in Florida, at our board meeting, as well as some of the other discussions that have been going on around the country, know that this repositioning effort represents a huge opportunity for us to advance AIA. One of the key measures of our state organization has been that we have component excellence across the board for staffed and unstaffed components. So, of course, we're glad that all of you are taking part in this discussion. We knew that this was coming, that there would be an effort to get involved and engage in the repositioning effort. And last November, during our planning retreat for 2013, I identified the need to have this task force, which is the Repositioning and Emerging Professionals Working Group. And the very first person I thought of joining this group was Kim Hedlund from Tampa. And Kim's in a unique position, one, because she's played a leadership role at the local level, two, because she's a strong leader, but also because I wanted to go outside of our executive committee to draw the members of this working group from across AIA. So very pleased with the progress that they've made thus far, and I'm going to turn the rest of the presentation over to Kim so she can share the update with you and what you guys can look at doing going forward as part of this effort. Kim?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to go over a few of the agenda items that we'll cover today, but first I wanted to go ahead and explain a little bit about the REP Task Force for Florida. It is composed of a diverse range of people. We have J.J. Scott, Clarice Solog, Rebecca Talbert, John Tyson, Don Yoshino representing all components on the task force. So it is a good group of folks that are looking at this and have a wide range of experience, from local leadership positions, emerging professionals, to fellows and folks that have served at the national level. So agenda items for today, we'll be talking about the REP Task Force, the Repositioning and Emerging Professionals Group. We'll be talking about AIA repositioning, the slides that have been provided from national. We'll talk about the Florida priorities that have been identified by our task force as key to move forward. We'll talk about the conversation guide that was provided by National in order to host town hall meetings to talk about repositioning. And we'll talk about the Repositioning Innovation Fund and opportunities for all components to go ahead and get some grant funds in order to assist with repositioning. So with that, I'd like to switch to the next slide and show a brief video that was shown at Grassroots earlier this year.
It's more than 3 letters after your name, or a taste in exotic eyewear, or the color of clothes in your closet. It's more than the sleepless nights, the brutal critiques, the hundreds of hours spent alone in front of a computer, the tight budgets, and the overdue invoices. It's looking at an empty space and seeing a world of possibilities. It's transforming a complex problem into a brilliantly simple solution. It's knowing that today's investment in our built environment will be repaid 100 times over tomorrow. It's believing the way our surroundings are designed can change the way we live. This is what drives us. This is what it is to be an architect. But this thing we do cannot be done alone. We need clients who can believe in the power of a reality that doesn't yet exist. We need to listen to the people who will live, work, and play in the places that we create. We need leadership in our communities and in our professions. We need each other. We are America's architects. We are committed to building a better world, and we can only do it together.
Okay, so for those of you who are at Grassroots, that's probably a little bit familiar, but that is the sort of the key manifesto for this repositioning effort. Let's see, can you all see a repositioning slide right now? Hopefully you can. So a little bit on the timeline of the repositioning. In December, consultants provided positioning statements and identified specific areas for AIA that require change. From there, in the early part of this year, meetings were held to develop an action plan and timeline for that change. And then in March, for those of you who were at Grassroots, it was rolled out to attendees in addition to the board members and staff. So the statement of purpose, this is the key statement that evolved from the consultants. It's the AIA is a visionary member organization providing advocacy, leadership, and resources for architects to design a better world. And then that was broken down into four key position statements or elements. AIA members create enduring value. AIA members drive positive change. AIA members lead with vision. And AIA members shape the future. From there was the organizational reassessment, and that was broken actually into four areas: connecting, engagement, innovation, and leadership. In terms of connecting, it was identified that components, there was some need to look at component autonomy versus unity, and that sometimes while local components or state components need to remain autonomous, it leads to a pretty big inconsistency across the three tiers. It also was recognized that component structure is somewhat unwieldy and challenging to really understand how everyone works together. And then there was, of course, identified the lack of tier coordination. Many members and staff noted that a lack of cohesion among the three tiers of AIA are pretty unclear, and their distinct function and responsibilities were not clear even to board members at each of those levels. So in terms of connecting, those were the prime areas to look at. Then in terms of engagement, hopefully we're on the engagement slide. In terms of engagement, it was recognized that there's a need to engage emerging professionals, that while AIA has strived to be a resource for all architects at every stage, the organization hasn't really fully embraced the values and interests of emerging architects. And with that, we're losing the next generation. So that was identified as critical to look at. In addition to in addition to emerging professionals, it was identified that there's an inefficacy of communications. We are completely bombarded with communications from AIA at a multitude of levels. And so in many ways, members that may not be on boards completely tune out. And that, unfortunately, obviously leads to a less effective member organization. That leads us to the innovation category and the prioritization of initiatives. Unfortunately, AIA can't be everything to everybody. So the organization must decide on programs and services that are essential for the majority of members. I believe that Robert Ivey, when we were at Grassroots in March, said that when he came on board, there were over 350 active programs that staff was working on, and that's a huge number for an organization of AIA size. And so obviously there's some prioritization that needs to take place. members and staff have noted that there's a passive reactiveness to important issues that define and impact the architectural profession. In some areas, that's advocacy for important design issues, but that as a whole, AIA needs to be a little bit more proactive in responding to important design issues. And then under the innovation category, there's resource allocation. And I'm sure that at various times over everyone's time with AIA, we've talked about some of the disproportionate resources that are seen as you compare national, state, and the local and regional components. So that was noted as something that needed a closer look at. Then under the category of lead, these are the final two items of the Big 10. It was noted that the one-year terms, basically, the leadership tenure, the one-year terms and the changing agendas of the elected leadership brings a certain lack of continuity. And so the impact of identifying and acting upon big, important issues is often a little bit disjointed. And then finally, board size and composition. The AIA board, and this is talking about the national board, has nearly 60 members, and it's incredibly large for an organization of AIA size. The bigger question there, or bigger concern, is whether or not that composition is truly representative of the range and diversity of members. So that was identified as being something that needed a closer look at. That brings us to this slide, this repositioning priority slide. Whoops. If you received an email from Mickey Jacob over the last several weeks asking your component to host a town hall meeting, this is one of the key attachments in that email and something that should be shared with your local component. This lists basically the 10 points that I just went through, and it also shows you the percentage of folks that went to grassroots where they felt the bulk of the energies should be spent and what the organization as a whole should be looking at. So you can see right towards the middle of that list with the prioritization of initiatives, inefficacy of communications, and the emerging professional, those sort of clearly rose to the top in terms of the biggest priorities. So where does that leave us now? At this point, it's all a lot of talk, but what are the action items, and what does this mean moving forward? So the immediate action items, there'll be a study of member services and resources, and this is done at the national. This will be done at the national level. It'll analyze the delivery of member benefits and services and the alignment of resources available across AIA, so for all tiers. There'll be a clear definition of roles and responsibilities for resource sharing to hopefully improve member services, and the final recommendations for these member service resource allocations will go to the national board in the spring of 2014. There'll be an organizational structure review. So the board will study the structure of the board. There'll be input and guidance from the consultants that have helped to date, and they'll be able to share their expertise in organizational design and development from a host of different professional organizations. Those recommendations will go to the national board for action by the end of this year. And then there'll be an emerging professionals summit. That will occur in November of this year, and it'll gather experts from across AIA, the academic world, and practice. And from that, they'll develop an action plan and a list of best practices serving emerging professionals with the intent of reaching actionable recommendations by 2014. There'll be additional research for gender and inclusiveness, and that is scheduled to be funded and completed in 2014. And then perhaps most importantly, for those of you on the call today, there's an innovation fund. There's existing or new programs that can be replicated by other components that are considered innovative and that address one of the 10 recommendations we just went through. There's a total of $250,000 available to be spread out across the nation to components, and they'll be awarded in the various categories of large, medium, small, and all volunteer components. They will be awarded at the AIA Annual Business Meeting for 2013 and be completed. The programs will need to be completed by the end of 2014. In addition to that, repositioning ambassadors will be, nominations will be accepted, and that they'll be selected in the 40-person group, will assist the AIA board in both the award of the innovation grant funds and providing guidance to set the AIA-wide priorities from those town hall recommendations. In terms of communications, it's currently in process and it will address all tiers. The main deliverable, in addition to the refreshed graphic identity, will be a strategizing for streamlining vehicles, clear message prioritization, and the process for developing content for digital, online, print vehicles. Hopefully that means fewer emails that folks will delete, aiming at getting folks to actually read communications from AIA at all levels. So there's the prioritization of AIA efforts, member recommendations on the priority of AIA program services and initiatives for the 2014-2015 planning. What's critical about this is where local components come in, and as most of you know, that all local components have been asked to host town hall meetings, and then to send their recommendation based on these 10 key priorities to national for compilation. Those priorities and where the bulk of the components feel the most energy needs to be spent will be presented at the AIA Annual Business Meeting. So to recap on the action items, we're focusing on serving members, starting the journey today, and starting the conversation today. And the commitment on the part of everyone is absolutely critical for this to be a success. So what does that mean for AIA Florida? The repositioning group over the last 2 months has identified basically 4 top priorities for AIA Florida. We felt like 2 of these were tied together, so that's why you see 4 instead of 3. But the engagement of emerging professionals we felt was most critical for the region. And then in addition to that, the inefficiencies of communications, the lack of tier coordination, and finally, board size and composition were all identified as being top priorities.
Kim, this is Dan. I want to add something there just to make it clear, and everybody may already understand this, but those are priorities that have been identified for the state component. We would expect that at your local component level, of course, you'll identify your own priorities and give us feedback on what you think those are. Right. These are what the task force initially identified, but your feedback is absolutely critical, both for the state and regional, as well as for the national input. So you see here those top priorities initially identified by the task force. And so as Dan was saying, we're encouraging all components to reach out to local chapters and board members with the priority list, with the priorities listed above, all those 10 points. Show the manifesto video and the slides to your board and at your monthly meetings. Use chapter meetings, e-blasts, newsletters, social media channels to gather any feedback that you can. Try polleverywhere.com. It's a quick response tool using text messaging, and it's there's a good response rate to date from EPs. So that's an excellent tool to try out. And then
finally, if possible, send your feedback to AIA Florida by June 7th. And Lisa's email address is on there. This entire presentation will be available by tomorrow morning on the AIA Florida website for you to use and reference. In terms of gathering that feedback and encouraging the conversation, in order to generate the priorities you've seen listed today, there were more than 31,000 points of input from surveys, site visits, presentations, one-on-one interviews. There's a wide range of methods that this feedback has already been gathered. So there are, from AI National, and it was hopefully everybody's been in receipt of it over the last several weeks, there was a conversation guide forwarded. And as soon as I'm done with these slides, I'll show you the one page on the AIA National website to go back and reference some of these tools. There was a great list of questions to engage in a constructive conversation about repositioning and to gain feedback. Those questions are listed here. I won't read them for you verbatim, but as you can see, they're great for getting the conversation started. I'd encourage everybody to find a moderator that's somewhat familiar with the repositioning effort and well-versed in moving forward, sort of as a unified front, and go ahead and host a town hall meeting. Again, back to the Innovation Fund. Once you've hosted that town hall meeting and you've identified what's most critical for your local component and you've been able to provide that feedback to AI Florida as well, there is a grant opportunity, and it's a significant grant opportunity to find methods to support the repositioning effort at the local level. Your grant has to support at least one of the 10 areas or 10 priorities identified, and it has to serve members in advanced architecture professions. Okay, so again, here are the 10 areas we just went over related to connecting, engagement, leading, and innovation. The items starred are, again, the ones that AIA Florida initially indicated as being critical. And then here's a little bit about how to apply for that Innovation Fund. They're due by July 10th. So hopefully between now and the end of June, your component will be able to host a town hall meeting or forum, get some feedback back to state and back to national, and be able to craft a grant application with the hope of getting some additional funding for a repositioning program. Again, all those programs, if you're applying for a grant, must be initiated in the 2013 calendar year and be completed by the end of 2014. A component may submit only one application for a single program or program series. So while you may have a great set of ideas, you have 3 wonderful ideas, they need to be combined into a single program or prioritized, only one program application per component. Components are welcomed and encouraged to submit collaborative programs that include other components or partners. And the program does not require matching funds. A lot of the time AIA funding requires matching funds. This one does not. So, so if you have a great idea and you need 100% funding, this is for you. And again, if you don't complete the program by the end of 2014, you will have to forfeit unused funds. So with that, I'm not sure if we can, Becky, if we can pull up the positioning website.
Yes, it's Lisa. I can do that right now. Bear with me 1 second.
So you can see Lisa has up the repositioning page from AIA.org. On here is everything from the guide for community conversations or your town hall meeting to the information on the Innovation Fund and the grant opportunities. The applications on there along with the fund overview and the instructions. The video we showed earlier today is on there, and you can watch much longer videos as well that are posted that were the overall presentation from grassroots from the consultants that basically looked at repositioning. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions, discussion, additional input from Dan. Not sure, Lisa, can you open up the...
Yeah, we can open up the line. Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
And actually, while we're opening up that line, you can type in some questions if you'd like in the WebEx control panel. So if you do have a question and you want to jot it down, we can see those. And if we don't get to them on this call, it will certainly be part of the recording that we put up tomorrow. So just give me 1 more second.
All right. While she's doing that, this is Dan again. I do want to encourage you to take this out to your component members, but also to take it to some people that are potential members or may have lapsed in their membership, or people that you're trying to recruit, because we'll give them some idea of the length that AIA has gone through to make sure that we are of service to our members and that we're prepared for the future. So I really want to encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. Also, as you move through this process, I would
Lisa, I think we may have lost Dan.
We might have lost Dan there. And I would actually suggest, since I'm not sure if we are able to unmute with this version we have, but please do write down your questions, and we'll be sure to get back to you with anything that you have, and maybe even do version 2 of this webinar the next time around. So Kim, do you want to add anything in?
No, I would like to encourage again all components to go ahead, take this back, have the conversation with your board, have the conversation in a town hall forum. The sooner the better. Try to get all your comments and suggestions back to national, but also back to state, to Lisa O'Donnell, so we can compile them and react in the most cohesive and coordinated way possible. And please take that information from the town hall meetings or the conversations that you host and use that information to apply for innovation funding, innovation grant funding, because that's key in this repositioning effort. If you have a great program that would be great for engaging emerging professionals or would be wonderful at improving communications with your members and, more importantly, non-members, then please go ahead and take this opportunity to try to get some funding. So with that, I guess I'd just like to thank everybody for calling in today. I'm sorry, I thought we were going to be able to unmute and actually have a conversation about this. But please feel free to forward your questions to Lisa, and we'll try to get those answered by tomorrow in the most timely manner possible.
All right, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.